The 2015 Every Student Succeeds Act that mandates that if a school take voucher students, that they have to submit to the mandates of Every Student Succeeds Act. And that, of course, means Common Core. With Common Core, a subject that we've talked about multiple times, social emotional learning.
Welcome, everybody, to Conversations That Matter for the New American Magazine. I am your host, Alex Newman, and we have a very special guest today, a wonderful, wonderful woman who has become a very good friend over the last 12 years as we worked together in education. I refer to Mary Black. She's one of the first people I call when I have questions about education, especially elementary education. Her bio is wonderful. She earned her bachelor's in elementary education from Marian College. She did graduate work at Butler University, Ohio State University, and Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis. She taught for 36 years in parochial public and private schools, as well as homeschooling her own children and others. Her teaching experience goes from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade and includes 3 years in a life skills classroom. She finally retired from the classroom in 2010 and then joined FreedomProject Academy in 2011. I served there as a teacher for over a decade on the board. Now it's just a wonderful, wonderful online K through 12 school. So after 48 years as an educator, Mary is now elementary director emeritus at Freedom Project, which means she's still working, even though she's pretending like she's not working. It's just amazing how much she does. Mary, you were one of the leading voices, one of the early voices exposing Common Core. You've been reviewing some so-called Christian textbooks, and you've been finding alarming things. And this looks to me like part of a broader trend where, Catholic schools are becoming woke and joining the Common Core bandwagon and the critical race theory stuff. And also Protestant schools. A lot of Protestant schools are now almost indistinguishable from the government schools. Talk about what you have found in your years of researching this. Should parents be doing a little bit more due diligence when they sign their kids up for a Catholic school or a Protestant school?
Absolutely, because most of those schools now, I would use the term most, I think appropriately, have become involved in a voucher system of some sort. And the problem with the voucher system is not in principle, but in the new law, I guess it's not new, the 2015 Every Student Succeeds Act that mandates that if a school take voucher students, that they have to submit to the mandates of Every Student Succeeds Act. And that, of course, means Common Core. With Common Core, a subject that we've talked about multiple times, social emotional learning.
Yeah, let's dig into some of those things. Mary, you were sounding the alarm about Common Core early on. In fact, I did a cover story for the New American back in 2012, I believe it was, about Common Core. And you were one of the many people that I relied on heavily to come up with information. And I think a lot of people are now under this mistaken impression that Common Core is gone because, hey, all the governors said that we didn't have Common Core and, I'm not hearing about it in the news anymore. So that must not be a problem anymore. Is Common Core still a problem? And what are some of the problems that you see with Common Core?
Yes, Common Core is still a problem. Sadly, I'm a Hoosier, Indiana resident. And it was our governor, Mike Pence, that began the touting and encouraging states just to change the name of their standards so that nobody believed that there was Common Core. It was our state and our governor that led that. And yes, it is still prevalent. It is embedded in the Every Student Succeeds Act that we talked about just a moment ago. It's mandated, it's codified, and all they did was they changed the name of it to College and Career Ready Standards.
That's right. What a bait and switch, right? And Indiana was a really good example. Governor Pence, was like, oh, Common Core is gone, and then of course we analyzed it, and it was like 90% directly cut and pasted from Common Core.
Exactly. And in Common Core, to go a little further with you, in Common Core, and we saw it very early on, or at least as a teacher, I was able to spot it, is embedded social emotional learning. To be very simple about explaining what social emotional learning is, it's replaces academic learning. Yep. And it with the group think in, and to be very blunt, indoctrination.
Yep. And it's a very scientific indoctrination, too. They've been studying this for a long time, figuring out how to manipulate children to have the right attitudes and values and beliefs and all the rest of it, huh?
And the definition, if you look on the CASEL, CASEL website, to find out what social emotional learning is, one of the things they describe is that they are trying to achieve is adjusting students' attitudes.
Yep. And actually, I spent some time on the Castle website, too. And by the way, it's funded by Bill Gates and all the rest of it. And they used to have a history page. And one of the things that I learned on the history page that I did not know was that the idea for SEL first came out of the Fetzer Institute. Now, I had never heard of the Fetzer Institute, but I looked it up. Turns out it's this weird new age occult thing where they're saying prayers that modeled on Alice Bailey stuff. Alice Bailey was, of course, founder of the Lucifer Publishing Company. So it gets dark and it goes deep real quick as you just scratch beneath the surface. Very, very troubling. Mary, how prevalent is this now in Christian schools? Are Christian schools, Catholic schools, Lutheran schools, are they jumping on this SEL bandwagon?
I am so sorry to say, Alex, but I think they have even jumped into the deep water of all of that, more so than maybe even the public schools, if that's possible. A very early experience in our fight against Common Core. We visited a curriculum team in a religious school in Green Bay, and we met with the academic team, people who should have known better. And I pointed out that what they were teaching was wrong for the children to hear, such as children can tell their parents what to do. I'm just kind of, in a nutshell, giving the story. This was in reading books that the children were to read at 2nd and 5th grade. A 2nd grade story talked about a child who thought he was equal to adults and could beat City Hall.
Huh. Wow.
And I said to this team, how do you coincide this with the 10 Commandments, with what you should be obeying? And one of the people in the meeting said, well, we use that opportunity to say this is wrong and to teach what is right. And I don't know how you feel, Alex. I think I can guess, having known you for a while. But as a parent, as a teacher, I do believe it is against God's law to teach wrong to children.
Absolutely. In fact, those who corrupt children, Jesus said they'd be better off if a millstone was hung around their neck and they were thrown into the bottom of the sea. So pretty serious.
Exactly. So this is what's going on in our religious schools, and the textbooks that I'm reviewing with the Christian name, if I may kind of connect the dots a little, reflect this humanist secular view, and if I may go a little further, even that truthfully, it's all connected to the United Nations goal to set one world religion, with them being in charge.
Yep. And some of the stuff you sent me, Mary, was very concerning. This was from a supposed Christian textbook, and they had references in there to teaching the kids to be good world citizens, and all these allusions to alleged systemic racism. And this stuff is really troubling. And, so many parents are pulling their kids out of public school, recognizing that stuff is bad. They put them in a Christian school. They think, oh, well, everything's fine now. And of course, these same subversive and evil ideas are even in the Christian schools and the Christian school textbooks. It's so troubling. Mary, stay with us. We're going to go to break real quick, and we're going to come back and talk about some of the issues of the day in education. Folks, stay tuned. We will be right back.
All right, parents, listen up. We've all seen the countless examples of how radical leftists have been destroying American schools. It's no longer just about the terrible math and reading levels. Now, radical left teachers birthed from liberal universities are forcing gender indoctrination in kindergarten. They're teaching lessons on white guilt.
FreedomProject Academy has perfected live online learning over the course of a decade. I get a ton of great feedback about this program, a ton.
They're built on Judeo-Christian values, a classical curriculum. What does that mean? It means they're taught, your children are taught the way that the founding generations of the country. My own son, Noah, did FreedomProject Academy for several years when he was younger.
The more we tell our friends about these things, the more people will get on board. And I believe that we can be the catalyst to some real change.
We must save the West. Our way of life and our culture is under attack. And because of patriots like you and your project, I have optimism for the future.
Welcome back to Conversations That Matter. Alex Newman here, your host. We are with Mary Black, a veteran educator, spent about 5 decades in teaching and education. She knows so much about what is happening now and where this all came from. Mary, let's just go through some of the stuff that's happening today. One of them is basically trying to force teachers into this through licensing requirements. They want to, take certain subjects out of the classroom and move it over to basically out of the classroom. Talk a little bit about what's happening there. We're trying to enforce this stuff in the schools.
Yes, what they're doing now is they're tying teachers being permitted to have licenses and seek employment as teachers to their Marxist, to use the word in the article, activities, being activist, and turning the students into little activists. I call this indoctrination. And all of this is done at the neglect of their academics. So to me, this is leading them to have very little judgment, the ability to think for themselves, and to just act and do as they're told, with no thought process involved.
Yeah. One of the things that most alarmed me, like in Minnesota, where they've got this new system for licensing teachers. And basically, if you won't affirm all the LGBT stuff, you're not allowed to teach it. In other words, Christians who believe the Bible, Christians who believe the teachings of the church that people have believed basically for thousands of years are no longer eligible to be teachers now in certain states.
Right. And parents and those who are listening should understand that it expressly says that that addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, probably even English grammar and how to read will be cut out to make room for this. And that's what has been done through social emotional learning. This is that the Trojan horse of social emotional learning has brought all of this into the classroom. So now they want to take it a step farther.
Yeah.
And so, the other thing that is becoming so apparent is that they are usurping parental authority. We had an example here in Indianapolis in one of our outlying school districts that the school district would not contact parents in the case of, gender transitions, gender identity crisis, anything. It was all kept at school. And the fear that traditional parents would react unkindly to the student.
So keeping parents in the dark, basically, when their children are coming to school and pretending to be the opposite gender. I mean, this is just totally crazy. And now the fake media seems to be joining in. One of the things that you and I talked about a little bit was this weird op-ed in the New York Times, this mom who I guess had come back from China and said, I want the government to co-parent with me like they do in China. You think that this generation of parents has been groomed to accept this idea of the government as co-parent?
Yes. And she actually says that she thinks that the Chinese commissars did a better job of being a mother than she did.
Oh, my goodness. Maybe she's an unfit mother, huh?
Maybe. And she said, another quote from her was the tight control of the Communist Party surveillance state resulted in its own kind of freedom. My mind cannot grasp how that would be freedom.
I wonder if she's read George Orwell, right? Freedom is slavery, or slavery. I mean, it's the definition.
Exactly. And then we have salesmen who are selling textbooks. And this is a big issue with me. I think parents do need to get their kids out of school. They do need to homeschool. But the problem is, and as a parent yourself, you may have met this problem, finding books that really don't contain critical race theory. Two examples that I think I pointed out to you were that they're hiding the critical race theory. They're calling it diversity, equity, and inclusion. And there, this one salesman sold this set of books. He got kicked out of teaching. So he went to writing textbooks, and it's full of CRT. But he said, well, I just don't tell them. And two major counties in Georgia, Fulton and Cobb, I believe was the other one, have purchased this curriculum for kindergartners.
Wow, it's insane. So even in the states where this is against the law, they're doing it, huh?
It is against the law, and then this has been going on for a long time. They've wanted to take over the family. In 2016, Health and Human Services put together a letter on family engagement. And to read it is chilling. This is exactly what they wanted. They wanted to become the co-parent, just like in China.
And they say it. And you read this document, they say parents could be equal partners in the raising of their children. I mean, it makes you want to puke. It's disgusting.
Yes. And then the ultimate thing that I see going on in schools, and it's been going on for a long while, even in the Catholic schools where I taught, it's replacing God with the state, which goes all the way back, as you well know, Alex, to the Horace Mann bringing the Prussian style of education back to the United States, where that was the purpose, was to turn their students into little state workers, worker bees, if you will, and have obedience only to the state. And I see that very much going on in our schools today. And the curriculum is designed, you have to be very cautious. Curriculum is now designed to do just that. And you may not even recognize it. Yeah. I'm sure there are some very good teachers out there that are teaching it and don't even know what they're doing.
Yeah. So the government schools are working to replace family with government. The government schools are working to replace God with government. And sounds a lot like what Karl Marx envisioned. Mary, we're down to just a couple minutes left. But for the parents out there who are alarmed by this, who want to find some solutions, one of the obvious ones is FreedomProject Academy. You and I have both been involved there from the beginning. And of course, homeschooling. Talk about some of the options that parents have who do not want to participate in this madness.
Okay, I would suggest that they review the curriculum very carefully that they want to use. I would suggest that they go with a particular curriculum as best as possible, because then I think it's easier for a parent who is not an educator necessarily, has never done it. Of course, I will recommend FPA courses. We have licensed teachers, classes at regular time. I've always referred to it as hybrid. We bring the best brick and mortar classes right into your home, where you can see and hear everything that your child is being exposed to.
Yeah, and that's at FPEUSA.org. That's where people can learn more about the school, huh? And even for people who don't end up deciding to enroll their children in the school, there are so many great resources. You guys published a list of books that have been thoroughly checked to make sure they're not aligned with Common Core, that they're not teaching paganism to the children.
Great point, Alex. Yes, anybody can go on to our list of curriculum, and please feel free to order it, to check it out. We're glad to offer that to parents.
Wonderful. Well, Mary, thank you so much for coming on the program and for sharing your insights. We really appreciate it. FPEUSA.org is the website of the Freedom Project Academy. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I'm Alex Newman. This is Conversations That Matter. Our guest today was Mary Black, a veteran teacher who's been teaching for about 5 decades and continues to be involved in education. In my opinion, one of the greatest and brightest experts in this field in our country and maybe the world. Thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, God bless you all.
Here's the news, Dad.
Is it, son? Is it?
What about this one, Dad?
Nope. It's hard to tell what's real and what's fake these days. There's just too much baloney out there. At the New American, they cut through the baloney and give me the truth.
The truth is hard to find, but the New American has it. Check it out at thenewamerican.com.